Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Antonaire, along with my partner in crime, Mr. Benjamin Johnson. This will be a fun one today, man. Yeah. So we're going to do something a little bit different, with it being this episode airing right kind of in the peak of the rut, if you will. The rut is just starting to pop up. The bucks are chasing does right now, at least the little ones here. We're bringing on 3 guests that we've had on in the past. So a pro staff member, Andrew McClure, to talk about hunting public land, high-pressure deer. Billy Phillips from the Hang and Hunt podcast, as well as the Hunt Urban YouTube channel. And then half of the dynamic duo over there in Dresden, Ohio, Mr. Dan Wells from Dan and Jackie Wells episode that we had on a little while ago, too. So this should be a fun one.
A lot of knowledge going to be covered.
Yeah, I'm excited
short little episodes.
Yep. So the little short episodes, we're going to be about 15 to 20 minutes apiece. Just real quick, top 5 things that they'd like to do during the rut and how to help you guys sit all day in the rut. So without further ado, please welcome Andrew McClure, pro staff member right here at Vance Outdoors. All right, everyone. Like I just mentioned on the intro, we are here with Andrew McClure, a pro staff member here at Vance Outdoors, good friend of ours, and avid public land big buck killer. He was also on episode 13. So if you want to get some more information about Andrew and kind of his backstory, definitely head on back to episode 13, which seems like forever ago, man.
It was a while.
We're on what? This is episode 39.
39.
So it's we're cooking. Yeah, man, we're cruising. Yeah, so hopefully we see some cruising. So like I mentioned, We're talking bucks and we're talking all day hunting strategies. Andrew's a wild man and loves to be out there literally all day. You remember last year we did that content with him and he was like, "Oh guys, don't worry, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the truck and eat my lunch on the tailgate and pop back in." So man, you're on the clock. I want to keep it short, but I want to give the listeners 5 top things that Andrew McClure does to have an all-day sit and success during the rut.
What did I, hold on, to reverse that, what did I eat at that tailgate? Oh, I cooked a peak. It was a peak
meal. Yep, one of the peak meals.
I couldn't remember. That was a good one. Okay, sorry.
Available at Vance Outdoors.
They are available at Vance. So I think my selfish desire, my first thing, is just good snacks. And this is now my go-to snack. I'm not sure.
He's holding up a Captain Crunch cereal bar.
It is. It came in a box with like all kinds of other things, but having multiple good snacks is what saves me. It just keeps me happy.
Yeah.
That, and then probably my next item on the list would be like clothing or just staying warm.
Yeah.
Not letting any of the elements, whatever is going on with the weather, just not letting any of that bother me. So that is huge for me, just being comfortable and content. Obviously, nothing happens if you don't have a GoPro. if you don't get it on video, you might as well just be roadkill. It didn't happen. No proof. That, and it's just like, obviously there's guys going to be saddle hunting or stand hunting or a ladder stand. So it's just, whatever you're using, having that dialed, I think is just a key component. So I'm in a saddle, been hunting. It's just having that dialed, being able to get in and out of bedding areas or transition areas just quietly. So that would be just a big important thing. And then where am I at now? How many is that?
That'd be what, 4? Is
that 4? Ooh, so the last one. I don't know. You're always going to have your calling devices or like estrus. We're going into rut here, so it's like I don't rattle. I've always been hesitant to rattle, just hunting on public. I've just not been that aggressive. I'm aggressive in a lot of other things, but rattling has always, it's just not something I've been able to prove for myself and accomplish multiple times successfully. So I'm always doing like estrus. That is something like an estrus drag and having many things and backup vials of just an estrus. That just helps me, and it helps me feel kind of like I'm covering my bases, especially during this time of year. But yeah, just like a cover scent and estrus. I like the calming. It's like kind of those deodorant sticks. I use the calming
What is that?
like
Evercalm?
Evercalm.
Yeah.
Evercalm.
Conquest Sense, right? Is it
Yeah,
Conquest?
Conquest Evercalm, I'm pretty sure. It's like in a deodorant stick. I love when I'm like hiking into places, especially if I know the wind's going to be bouncing around and between morning to noon to evening, with the thermals changing, winds possibly
Sure.
changing. It just that helps me feel like I'm covering my bases. I just use the yellow stick. It's just the herd scent, and you can literally. I kind of put that in the kind of like north, south, east, west. So it's like I'll put it on the tree in front of me since I'm in a saddle. If I can reach something to my side, if there's another tree, or if I'm like the crotch of a tree, I'll put it behind me or to my side. I definitely put a couple swipes down at the bottom of the tree, and then as I'm hiking in, along with like the estrus drag, I put it on my boots, especially when I'm getting in
Sure.
that last like 100 yards. It's just you could almost put it like on your haunches a little bit or your calves, inside the calves, so it's just kind of rubbing together and kind of falling off as you go. But
Sure.
that one
Sure.
I feel even using it earlier in the season, I've had doe come in on bad wind, and
Okay.
they've not saying that's what made it work, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been in situations where like I know I should have been busted, and it's and I just wasn't.
It's helped.
Yeah, it just kind of kept everything calm.
And I think that's one thing that I can even take away from this too, is because I haven't really ventured into the avenue of using cover. I mean, you're using cover sense in terms of like your dead downwind product or your code blue,
Absolutely,
scent killer, whatever.
Yeah.
But getting to that point, which I just started picking up, using that Black Widow doe estrus spray in the little
Yeah,
spray bottle,
yep.
just a little mister. I think Brock and Bailey on our team, they do use that as well. And he actually had does bedded within shooting distance in front of him.
Oh,
Like
yeah, I
calm,
could.
like completely calm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like he just sent me the video on his iPhone. Excuse me. And but I think getting into more of the cover sense and getting into some of the calming deodorant stick, if you will,
Yeah.
to try to kind of help mask getting that in there and seeing. You had mentioned too, and we can get into this a little bit. I don't want to dive too much into that, but just the buck bomb as well as kind of having.
There's been times I've been known, like sometimes when just like nothing is working, and you're like, it's like go time kind of situation. I mean, sometimes I'll pull out Hail Marys, and there's like this canned buck bomb that you can pull the can off. I think it's got there's no aerosol in it, so is what's
Okay.
pushing out the fluid. I think is like a balloon, an inflated balloon inside the can. So it is just like the bomb coming out, like just like the herd and the estrus scent with no aerosol. But I've been known to be up in the stand, pop the top, hit it like a grenade because you can click the top down and keep it down, and just into a shooting lane. It looks like launch it, like, and then once it'll hit and it sprays. I think for about 30 seconds, and I've had success
Yeah.
with that. So.
That's cool.
And it is kind of funny. You're not pulling in like a monster, but it's like
Yeah.
you don't know what's in there, and you're like, I just need something to move.
Yeah.
It's made them move. So,
Well, it's different. It's different when it's on public land too, because you're not necessarily sure you're gonna find. Like
correct. Yeah.
you're not going after a quote unquote target buck per se.
Yeah.
And if you are, there's so many other variables that you have to take in consideration with that too. So I want to dive back in a little bit towards gear
Okay.
and food.
Yeah.
I know you're you have the hat on, so you're a Sika guy through and through.
Yeah.
Having quality gear and layering. So right now we're rut hunting. It's damn near going to be 60, 70 degrees the entire afternoon. So you're going to have a variety of stuff right now, from the early morning where we're looking into the upper
Cold.
30s to 40s all the way up to 70. What kind of just real fast run through what you have right now from Sika that's what you're going to be wearing?
So like my system right now, this gets me through your 35, 36 degree mornings to your 70 degree afternoons. I run hot, so I'll hike in with, I don't wear long underwear. I do wear the mountain pants since I'm in a saddle. It has the built-in knee pads. That's been like once I started doing that instead of carrying knee pads, it was just a game changer for me. It just allowed me to be efficient, light, and I'm not trying to search for something else. So the mountain pants are huge. The I always have like a core lightweight next to skin. I run the hood because it has the built-in mask. I don't like carrying a beanie because every time I carry a beanie, I lose it in the woods. It falls out of my pocket.
Yeah.
I can't.
Or you drop
it.
it.
I can't find it in a bag. I'm just not a beanie guy. So the core lightweight with the hood, it's nice because you can. I think it unzips almost my belly button, so it's like you can spill some heat. New this year with Sitka, they came out with an ambient collection.
Yes.
I will admit, I'm a Sitka fanboy. But I only use the things that work for me, and I'm very judgmental with things that don't work. I didn't think it was going to have such a large spread in my gear. By having that, I almost ditched a jacket and actually I was using the Fanatic hoodie for a long time. So I do the core lightweight, I do the ambient pullover since I run hotter, and I'm already going to hike with it. Even in I'll hike out with it in the afternoons. I can say, yes, you will sweat up in it, but it does what it's supposed to do, and you get that moisture off of you, and it dries out really quick. And then just a vest. You can do. I've been doing it in the Jetstream collections, and with like the core lightweight, ambient, and a vest, I can hike in 36 degrees, and I'm actually pretty comfortable. I do carry a Stratus jacket. But that's
where it's super cold.
If the wind starts to really, really like pick up and rip. I'm just a vest guy. I think keeping my arms exposed just allows me to fight. And so it just keeps me ready. I just don't like the bulk. But that's probably where I'm at there. Like I said, no long johns, mountain pants. I'll do the core lightweight against skin, ambient, pullover. So that has a hood as well, so I can double hood if it's cold. And then one of the Jetstream vests, or you can get a Stratus vest, and that's perfect. You can.
Yeah, and again, I think we have Stratus and Ambient. I'm not 100% sure on the Jetstream, but I know we can order just about anything from Sitka, which is something that a lot of people don't realize is that's a marquee brand that we carry in just about all of our locations, with the exception of one. I mean, we have Sitka. If you're in Cincinnati, Columbus, or over here in Central Ohio and Licking County area, we have that. So. And Ed and those guys over there, they can get you just about anything that they sell as well. So it's nice to have that and try that on. And I mean, from the bibs to the base layers to, even going to like last week's episode with lacrosse, we have all those boots as well. So
that's true. Yeah.
One thing I know that you do, and I think that we should add into this too, is just wearing, like, similar to the conversation that we had last week with Troy, is bringing in an extra pair of socks.
Oh yeah, that's.
I mean, so when we get into that, because you mentioned, you're gonna sweat, especially for you when you're hiking in like a mile to your stand. It's not as big of a deal if you're going 100 yards from your four-wheeler to the stand.
Correct.
On a private farm or lease permission or something, but I think having that extra pair of socks for me especially has helped. Because my feet are always cold, and I'm wearing merino, but I feel like once they get sweaty and get that, and the temperature starts to hit them, it's like it's done city, and then you have a miserable, and then that always happens at like 11:30, and so then you have like the next 5 hours and
like
you're just
miserable.
So
one thing that helps me, like I said, I do run warm, and running a rubber boot, you're just going to build up a lot more moisture. Wearing and I think this is why I can get away with not wearing long underwear. I wear long boxers, and then I wear a full length, or when I say full length, an over the calf synthetic sock. So, and that's like you can get any of your synthetic fibers, but that pulls in a rubber boot. You'll get colder quicker with moisture against your skin. So that rips everything off your skin, and then you can kind of control whether you want like lightweight, medium, or heavyweight wool sock over top of it. And I run wool. I've just always done the smart wool. It's just what's worked for me. But that's a big thing, because you can hike in comfortably at that point. You are going to build up sweat. I think a trick I do too is roll the boot down. I don't even leave it up. So it's like I kind of fold it over and pull it down. So it opens up the top, it bellows out, and it allows.
You're running the Burley Pros, aren't you?
I do the Burley Pros. Yeah, they are a little bit bigger of a boot.
Clunkier. Like what Troy was mentioning to us yesterday, last week.
I don't. I've not had the chance to run an Aerolite, but I just don't. It's not bothered me. I can run up my Skeletors. I can sit on the platform or stand on the platform, and it doesn't. That size of boot this really hasn't been an issue.
Not to.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, not to make it all about boots, but the other thing too from that conversation from last week is the
polypropylene.
Yeah, I think is the boot material.
For which one?
For the arrowhead.
Oh.
It being non-conductive and bleeding heat through the bottom of your foot.
I know what you're getting at, but I can't remember the material.
Yeah, it's poly something. But yeah, so it's not polyurethane, is it?
Actually, I think it is. I think that's what
we just talked to him last week. I can't remember, but yeah, it not bleeding through. That's huge too. So
yeah.
Changing those socks out on the saddle is a little bit of a trick. I would definitely. Yeah, I was gonna say before you get up into the tree, you do it. I mean, if you're on a regular stand, it's no problem because you're seated, and you don't have to worry about kind of that tinier platform. But changing your socks for sure. Mm-hmm. What kind of? I know you mentioned the GoPro, and then we'll get you out on this. But you mentioned the GoPro. What kind of? Are you bringing external power?
Yeah,
we're creatures. We're glued to our phones, and so you're playing games and all that good stuff.
I don't play games. I've had early on when the phone was getting smarter and there was games. I definitely played games, and then I realized half the stuff would like walk in underneath me, and then it was way too late. You're like, I don't know, you're playing Battleship with someone in like China. Like you just didn't know what you're doing, and like it was getting distracted. I bring external power as far as batteries for the GoPros. I'll just like a couple, like 2 or 3 batteries. And then I do have like the cable and stuff for my phone, just in case. Like you never knew, you can still take video on it with your phone. They shoot 4K now, so
exactly.
It's super convenient. You don't hear racking in the background because you have like a big digital camera. Mm-hmm. It's super quiet, and we're so accustomed to our phones that half the time I can get on a squirrel or a deer walking in 90% or 100 times faster with the phone than anything else. I just set the GoPros up to get like a surrounding shot and just use a remote. So you hit record, they all kick on. I'm not, and that's just kind of what I use them for.
So he's got the 360 degrees of him missing. No, I'm just kidding. That would be me.
Absolutely.
That would be me.
No. Now you just like spoke it into existence. Like that should be like just a
knock on wood.
Straight whiff. No, awesome. Thankfully, no, that has not happened.
He's shooting deer while they're running, so he's all right. He's good to go. He heart shooting deer while they're running. So, well, man, I appreciate you hopping on this afternoon with us and giving us a little bit of an insight on kind of what makes it more comfortable for you. I know these are some grueling times. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of lows and then 15 seconds of fun, hopefully, for all of us here. So thanks for taking the time. He's even sitting in like a cafe right now from his lunch break at work. So we appreciate it. And again, if you want to listen more from Andrew, go ahead and go back to episode 13 where we kind of dive into a little bit of his backstory, even talking about some of his public land hunts. And sir, again, thanks for your time, man. Look forward to having that kill shot from you this year.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, and thanks for all your support. No, it's awesome. It's been great.
All right, that was all for Andrew. Hope you guys were able to take away some of that, especially those snacks.
Yeah, the snacks were killer.
Yeah, and as well as the gear talk too. Andrew definitely is really tuned in to how he wants his gear to perform and what gear he wants to take to the field. And I hope you guys are able to take away something from that. So he's a smart dude and really knows his stuff. And so again, I hope you guys were able to take away something from that. Next up, one of my favorite people, Mr. Billy Phillips. Hang and hunt himself. So we're going to dive into hopefully some saddle talk as well as some snacks as well. So Billy likes to eat. So without further ado, Billy Phillips. All right, everyone. Guest number 2, probably one of my favorite people on the entire planet, Mr. Billy Phillips, the comedian himself. What's up, buddy? How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. I'm honored that you would lie to all these people that I'm one of your favorite people.
He's definitely the person that's always going to get me the smile. I don't care if I'm talking to him on the phone or I'm sending him a text message. I'm usually smiling at something he said. But
I'm full of it.
If you haven't already, Billy was on way back. One of our first guests, episode 5, I believe. Billy, this is episode 39. So we've come a long way. My hang and hunt guys need to catch up a little bit, but we won't go down that path. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you on. So, like I told you, today we're kind of talking with guests just about rut and the rut. And with you being in a completely different part of the country, it's kind of interesting to see what your take is on it. I want to get your opinion. We're looking for the top 5 things that Billy Phillips had as a must-have or is a key to having like a successful all-day sit in the rut.
Yeah, you kind of hit on this when we were talking before, but it's like a subtopic, so we'll hit on it first. Snacks.
Yep.
If any of the listeners know Hunter Rudd, he's one of the he's one of the guys. He's kind of freelance, but he does a lot of work with Capture Creative. And if you follow him at all, his snack game is better than anyone else on the planet when it comes to tree stand and saddle sets. Dude, today he had taco salad in a bag. Yesterday he had chili dogs. He had buns, dogs, and a thermos of chili, and made chili dogs in the stand. I think snacks are the most important thing to him when it comes to any sit. I mean, it could be a 2-hour sit, and he's going to have snacks.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but with snacks, for me, I don't worry about noise. And this is actually going to it's going to kind of segue into something else I talk about a little later with noise when I'm in the stand for all-day sits. But like wrappers and things like that, I don't really put much emphasis on that. They're not that loud. I mean, if you're 20 yards away, you can't really hear a wrapper, cracking. I know guys that will unwrap all their candy bars and put them in like Ziploc bags because they're going to be quieter, but I'm not that anal about it. But for me, snacks, I love having apples.
Yeah.
I guess if I throw them on the ground, could that be considered baiting? I don't know.
In Ohio, it doesn't matter, so you're good.
Maybe just the core, But in Ohio, it's good. Maryland, it's good. But I like apples. I think sugar, for some reason, I really like. It kind of gives me a little bit of a pickup and kind of gets me over that next hump. So candy bars, I love candy bars, and I don't eat any candy outside of a tree stand, but it's like I grab a handful of like Fun Size, and
same.
And that puts me over. But snacks, I think, are really important. That's like a subcategory for really any sit, but definitely like those long sits, anything more than like 3 or 4 hours.
I tried to do ramen last year in my Yeti, and it was actually this one right here. So I tried to do ramen in it, and I made it before, and then I got out, 11 o'clock comes around, we're getting ready to eat it, and it was Jell-O because it had just sat. I'm like, nope, don't pre-make your ramen if you think you're gonna get some nice soup in the middle of the day.
Yeah. In any type of broth and noodles, when they sit like that in a thermos or any type of it just soaks it up, and then you're just eating these overly hydrated noodles,
Definitely not what
but
I expected.
I mean, I don't get full meals. It's more snacks, and definitely sandwiches. And if you can get someone else to make your sandwich, it's always better.
Oh, sure.
Every single time, So those snacks, that little subcategory. But when you get into what I do for all day sits, comfort is one of the most important aspects of an all-day sit, because you're going to fidget. I mean, I don't care if you're sitting in a lazy boy. If you sit in a lazy boy for 10 hours, you're going to want to get up and you're going to want to fidget. So comfort is primo. Now, I hunt out of a saddle almost exclusively, and I use a platform too. So shoes that are going to be comfortable to stand on a platform for all day is absolutely critical. Cold weather situations, your insulated shoes are going to be a little bit, more cushiony.
Yeah.
But I also like to wrap my platform in camofoam tape, and that not only does it quiet it down and it takes away any like metal to metal noise, but it also it gives you this tiny bit of insulation, so the metal isn't like wicking that heat away from your boots and shoes. If you stand on metal all the time, your feet will potentially get cold when it's really cold outside. So I do that, and that absolutely helps. It's just a thin layer, but it does a tremendous job. So footwear, I think, is absolutely critical, because even if you're in a tree stand, you're going to want to stand up. You're not sitting the whole time. So your foot gear, that's crucial. The next thing, and I'm taking a saddle perspective, I don't always wear knee pads, but when I'm in a long sit, I tend to move a little bit more, and I'm a leaner in a saddle.
Me too.
But I will sit too to give myself a break. And having knee pads or a pad against the tree, that's really, really important. That's a good accessory for saddle hunting, along with the back strap.
Yep.
Some saddles, are more all-encompassing. They're like halfway up your back almost, and then down your thighs. But I use a single-panel saddle, and when I'm in an all-day sit, I will use a back strap. And it just gives you a little bit more support, and especially as a leaner like I am, it gives me that extra support.
Now, when you're using you're running the Phantom, right?
Yeah, the Phantom and the Phantom XL.
Okay, yeah. So Ben and I are both running the same stuff, and I think, did you get the MVP?
I got the MVP.
So he's got the MVP, the backstrap. We're talking tethered products here, available at Advanced Outdoors if you'd like to come over and check them out. But I'm running the original backstrap from Tethered. I mean, I've had it for 3 years now at this point. Do you ever, we mentioned sitting. I'm a leaner too, so I like to I'll start it with it under my armpits and kind of really fall back into it, or, that lower back support and really crank it in to get you some lumbar. But have you ever taken it and run it, so I'm holding my hand out like legs, but run it up underneath like your hamstrings, if you will, like right behind your knees, to kind of give you like a little swing from sitting sometimes?
No, I don't, just because of the angle that I have on my tether and my bridge.
Okay.
It ends up, even though I'm a leaner, it ends up kind of making that seat a little bit, so I can sit very easily if I want, just by lengthening my tether.
Okay.
So just the way that I adjust my saddle under me, I already have that support, so it's the back support that I like a little bit more.
Sure.
And I use the old one too. I don't use the MVP. I actually use the old one primarily because I don't use it that often, unless like 2 weeks during the year that I'm really using it very much.
It's been pretty clutch. That's been something. I mean, and your sits might be a little bit different than mine too. I mean, if you're just going in after work, I mean, we're not talking right here, but kind of with this, if you're going in after work, you may be only sitting 3 or 4 hours most. With the urban environment versus, I can get in there at noon and be there kind of all day or whatever. So I typically just do that to put some pressure off my feet and just kind of let my feet dangle a little bit, if you will. I know that puts a lot of extra pressure on your legs, but it just kind of, for me, it feels good to kind of let my feet have a break from being on something. And with having the saddle, that's kind of the added benefit, if you will, to that too.
Yeah. If you are going to dangle your feet, then I do agree that would definitely help. I don't have my feet flat on the platform all the time. A lot of times I'm on the edge of it, or I've got one foot up on the post.
Okay. And,
a lot of times when you're turning, especially to your offside, I like to turn backwards. And I have to put my foot on that post. So if it's already there, I'm already ready and prepared to spin that back way. So I alternate with that. So there's not too much movement, but a little bit of foot movement there.
Okay. That's a good tip for sure.
One other tip that, and this kind of, I talked about it briefly with the noise with snacks and things. Noise, unless it's really, really unnatural and loud, it doesn't bother me very much. And it doesn't bother deer. I mean, my brother Josh and I, we have songs that we play on our phones during hunts. And it's like, when we go dove hunting, it seems like we play Johnny Cash and the doves start flying, so, and we do those things, like these little superstitious games that we play, but we'll play like hardcore rap songs and for deer to show up, and we'll play Ghetto Boys in the tree, and it's crazy. And it's but you can hear it at a low volume, and if someone was on the ground, they wouldn't be able to hear that sound. It just gets my mind. It gets my mind off of the drudgery and the monotony. Yeah. But it also allows me to play games with my mind too, to spend that time. I mean, let's be real. An all-day sit is a mental game. And people say, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable and I fidget." Well, mentally, you can get over those things because you're not that uncomfortable. It's not like you're losing circulation in your legs and you're cramping and things like that. You get a little fidgety, so it turns into a mind game. And one of my next tips is playing mental games with yourself. When I play songs, I'll play 2 or 3 songs in a row and then pause it. Well, you do that 5 or 6 times throughout a sit and throughout a day, and you're pretty much done with your day.
Sure.
And that will help me get through. I play other mental games where, I'll count to 1,000. And if you think about it, how many times in your life have you actually counted over 100, since like middle school or whatever, but sit there and count to 1,000, like legitimately say every word in your head or every number in your head to 1,000. And it takes anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how fast you count. And if you do that, it's like you're looking forward to something that's not that far away. And you kind of accomplish a little tiny victory. You accomplish this little goal, and then you're kind of amped up. All right, now I can focus again. And you focus again, and you're really hardcore hunting until you start to wane and then count again or turn on music again. So those little mental games are something that I like to do. And I always try to concentrate on where the deer are coming from, or what's going on with the environment, or listening really hard. I try to do that more than I'm playing the mental games. The mental games are just that break that I use
to kind of help you get over that. Now, and from this and using your phone and using this tech, are there any type of gear tips that you would kind of segue off of that a little bit too? Are you bringing in any type of external power source? Are you bringing in extra batteries? I know you guys are filming a lot of that stuff too, so that might take into consideration. If there are any tips that you can give someone there on the tech side in terms of what they should bring if they are trying to use their phone all day or use it for those mental breaks?
Yes, absolutely, and how to use it too. So definitely bring an external battery for anything, or additional batteries for anything. 1 is none, 2 is 1.
Yep. And
when it comes to your phone, I learned this by talking to the folks at Goal Zero. Goal Zero, they have the packable solar panels. And they said, if you're going to charge your phone or anything else, don't charge it to 100% and then unplug it, because you're using just as much of the solar or the external battery for that last 10% as you are for the first 90%. Okay. So charge it up to 80% or 75% and let it burn all the way down to 20-30% before you plug it in again. And that will save your external battery tremendously.
That's a good tip.
That's something that has really helped me, because you can say this charger will, or this external battery will charge my phone 3 times, but if you leave it plugged in all day long and it's always trying to fight to that 100%, it burns it a lot faster. So plug it in, get it charged up to 80% or so, then unplug it and let it burn down. I mean, if you're not really playing on it all the time and you're not doing those things, it doesn't burn it down as much. And another thing is, if you're in a stationary point, turn your location off. That burns battery. If you're not using it, you don't need to be connected to the internet. Like if you've downloaded music or whatever, just put it in airplane mode too. Those things right there will save your battery tremendously.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Once your wife or significant other knows where you are, just say, hey, this is where I'm at. Send her the screenshot of Onyx and then be like, for me especially, I'm only hunting 700 yards away from the house. So if I'm not back by dark, then you know where I am. So that works out
exactly.
Cool. That's awesome. All right, everyone, we need to take a quick break from our conversation to thank our sponsor, Toby Burdett with Burdett Taxidermy and Legends Big Game Recovery. The rut is starting to heat up and moments come at you fast. Sometimes bad shots happen. If you're in Ohio or the surrounding states and you find yourself in a situation where you need help tracking, give him a call, 740-281-6435. Thanks, everyone. Good luck this hunting season. Now let's get back into the conversation. I want to get into things are a little bit different for you too. So I don't know how much, obviously, if you go back to episode 5, you'll listen to Billy hunts a lot of suburban environments. And so with that, are you rut hunting in those environments? Are you kind of rut hunting in your traditional farm country stuff? And if so, are you using a calling sequence? What kind of calling sequence do you have? Grunt tubes, bleat calls, maybe rattling? How often are you doing that? And then, what kind of products are you using for that?
Yeah, I I'm going to hunt wherever I think the deer are, wherever I think the bucks are, and in between those bedding areas. And sometimes that's in an urban environment, and sometimes that's in, farm country. It's just, I'm going to go to where the deer are. Now, when it comes to calling sequences, I really like to rattle like a couple minutes, maybe a minute before legal shooting light.
Okay.
And the sequence that I like to go through is, sometimes I'll do a doe bleat, and sometimes I leave that out, but I'll softly grunt, and then I will do a tending grunt. And I also like to have something on the ground, about wrist thickness and about, 18 inches long or so. And I'll tie that to my pull rope, and I throw that down into the leaves. And I pull that through the leaves, I drop it, I make noise while I'm doing those tending grunts to kind of try to paint the picture of a buck on a doe and maybe following a doe, chasing a doe, because a lot of times when it's quiet and your sound travels, if they just hear a grunt, they should be hearing leaves. They should be hearing sticks. Yes. I'll break branches in the trees. I'll do those things. So that's not really a product that I use, but it is something that I do. But I like to do tending grunts, and then I'll give it a little break for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and then I'll get aggressively grunting. And then I'll hit my horns, and I'll hit the antlers together, and I'll rattle. And sometimes I'll rattle. I won't rattle for like 10 seconds and listen. Sometimes I'll rattle and play with the leaves, try to make that extra noise, and I'll do it. Sometimes I'll do it until I see a buck.
Oh, okay.
It might be a couple minutes. I've seen bucks fight for minutes on end, so that's something that I will do. I've used like the bag, but I use natural antlers when I rattle now, and it's just I've got a pile of them, so I've turned them into rattling antlers. So I use them a lot. I cut the ends off of them so they're not pointed and I'm not jabbing myself.
Sure.
My favorite ones are ones that don't have brow tines, or I cut the brow tines off, so I've got really good handles and I'm not hitting my knuckles. Those are things that I absolutely do. Grunt tubes, I've got a bunch of them. I have a preference towards those wooden ones just because my dad used an old wooden one when he was teaching me to hunt. So I do like those, but I don't have a preference. I do like to be able to have a grunt call that I can change the tone and pitch just by blowing into it, as opposed to, I know there's like the deer extinguishers out there, and I've used that one before, and it works well. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just like one that I can just manipulate, just by breathing.
Oh, for sure. Did you see the video of is it Chad Davis that he was doing the grunt with his mouth? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Did you see? And then the doe bleat with his mouth too, like wasn't using the call period. I'm like, that's next level, man. I don't know how that.
Well, I've left my grunt call at home during the rut, and as crazy as it sounds, if you think about a grunt versus a human burp, they're pretty similar, and I can burp on command. So I've definitely used that and burped, and I've burped in deer before. And my brother was like, and he's like a master burper, right? He's been able to burp like a maniac since he was a little kid, and he uses that a lot. And I'm really not making a joke, because all deer sound different. And I reposted a couple videos in the past week about where deer are coming in, and it's live deer, and they're grunting, and there's these real soft grunts, there's these loud grunts, and it's all in the same sequence from the same deer. So you want to mix that up a little bit when you're trying to paint the picture. I mean, if you're painting a picture of you as a buck tending a doe, they're not going to be real aggressive grunts. They're going to be more of those tending grunts. And I find that those tending grunts in the rut are the most effective. In the pre-rut, when you're more aggressive and you have those aggressive grunts and aggressive calls, those can be effective too. Snort wheezes for me, I think have been effective in pre-rut and throughout the rut, and I just do that with my mouth.
Yeah, that's another thing too. We were just talking about that today with another guy too. It was like, do I get a grunt with a snort wheeze on it? And I was like, you can, but you can also just with your mouth too. And so it's the greatest time of the year, man. It's our Super Bowl. So
it's great.
I'm gonna get you out with one. We'll do some rapid fire real fast, and then we'll get you out of here. Start off.
I did.
Go ahead.
Jordan, I did have one more tip. I think for my fifth was is make sure you have a way to hang your bow and hang your calls that they are rapidly accessible, so you can just grab them and shoot immediately.
Yep.
In a saddle, talking about tethered gear. I mean, I use their HYS strap, their HIS strap, and it stands for hang your shit or hang your stuff. And I can just grab my bow off of it immediately, and it's right in my hand. As opposed, it's hard to hold a bow all day long, and if you've got it in a way that it's not easily accessible, and those deer run in the middle of the day at 11 o'clock, you have to be able to grab it and shoot right away. So that's the only other real big tip that I have for those all-day sits.
Yeah, and I would echo what you just said, because last year, towards the later part of the rut, I had a smaller buck. He ran by, and I certainly would have shot him on the property that I was on, but he ran by, and by the time I had a chance to even get to him, he was, probably 25, 30, and then at that point, it was just like, okay, I'm not going to risk that. He just kept trucking along and was looking and out, and had I had stuff ready to go. I think the HIS strap is another awesome tip, because if you're on public land, or you're on, here in Ohio, if you're on public land, you're not wanting to do that, put screw in bow holders or anything like that. But for me, I'll run like the little bow hook that on the private property, screw that in, my bow's ready to go. I don't have to worry about that. I've had with the HIS strap, sometimes with the heavier bows, it's kind of I've had issues. Remember the one last summer where I've actually dropped my bow out of the stand because of the carabiner kind of gave away on the HIS strap. But it would be perfect to hang calls and hang your, anything else that you have, your rangefinders, everything just right there in front of you in terms of saddle hunting. You run that HIS strap, it's boom, those hooks, those daisy chain hooks are right there and ready to go. So that's an awesome tip too.
Yeah, one thing that I also do, and I don't recommend it for everyone because, technically it's not the safest way to do it, but I will run the tag end of my tether. It's hanging down. A lot of people will daisy chain it up. But what I do is I take it and I wrap it through my bow and I clip it into my carabiner that's on my, and that connects to my bridge. And then when a deer comes in, I reach up with my release hand, I release that rope. And when I pull my bow away, it automatically comes out and my hand's already there to attach my release. I don't recommend that just because your carabiner's not screwed all the way down and locked down. And in fact, when you see the tethered video of my Sitka stag that I shot 2 weeks ago, you'll see that my carabiner is not fully closed because that's what I did. I didn't have my HIS strap that day. But that having your stuff right there ready to go at all times, because it takes 10 seconds and you went from boredom to elation or defeat.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah, you hit the hammer on the head for sure. So rapid fire, if you had to pick a day of the year in Virginia, Maryland, what day are you picking?
November 9th.
November 9th. So November 9th, there you go. And then this will make Hunter happy. You get one snack. What are you taking to the tree stand? Not a 9x13 baking dish either.
It'd be a handful of candy. Snickers, Kit Kats, those types of things. A handful of candy.
I think it was on purpose that Halloween and trick or treat for my kids lined up, a week before the rut picked up, so then I can just go ahead and dad tax all those Kit Kats.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, sir, you're a busy man, and I'm still waiting for my invite down there to go shoot some does. So once we get through all this rut stuff, I'll go shoot some knocked up does.
Yeah, that's fine, man. Well, we need it. There's so many deer down here, and our schedules will align, I promise.
Sounds good, brother. Well, hey, I got nothing but time, so appreciate you today. Get back to work, and good luck this season, man.
Thanks.
All right, everyone, that is all we had for you with Billy. I hope you found some enjoyment out of that. He was definitely hitting us with some knowledge bombs there, especially the trick with the branch and the rope.
Yeah, that was cool.
Super cool. And then, snacks. So he's a man that doesn't care about sound.
Well, the little sounds.
The little sounds.
Yeah, the wrapper sounds.
Yeah. It makes me question having those silicone bags.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And then lastly, so we had two saddle hunters. Our next guest, like I said, Dan Wells from right here in Ohio in the Dresden area. He's going to talk about comfort in the tree stand, traditional hang-on tree stand setup. He's not a saddle hunter like us by any means, so this should be applicable to just about everybody. Without further ado, Mr. Dan Wells. All right, well, we just got done talking for the last 7 minutes, joking around, but, you know, we mentioned Billy being one of my favorite people. This guy right here to my right is definitely one of those as well, Mr. Dan Wells, the other half of the dynamic Dresden duo that I mentioned before. Well, he actually came in, so thanks for making the half-hour drive down here for a 20-minute conversation.
Oh, that's right. I wanted to see Ben's beautiful mustache in person.
Yeah, so shout out.
That's the only reason I'm here today.
What's the idea with the mustache? That's the bow thing, right?
Yeah. So just the rut stash.
Rut stash.
Keeping it until I get a couple deer.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
There you go. So shout out Bo. I know he's out hunting in Alberta probably when this is airing, but he's got the rut stash in full force. We'll have to maybe put a picture up on the gram there for everybody. But Dan and Jackie, his wife, joined us on episode 14. I think I just said, right? Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And one of the best families here that we know of. 2 strapping young lads with some sweet haircuts.
That's right.
And a cool squirrel dog named Boone. How's it been so far for you this year before we get into the rut stuff?
Man, it's been great. I mean, we've spent, a lot of time outside. In fact, I hope Thomas's teachers don't hear this, but I pulled him out of school early a couple of days, and I've got to tell this story. Is he did have a doctor's appointment that we had to go to before we could go out and do a little bit of duck hunting. We were just kind of bust some ducks, headed back to the roost, and he walks out of school with his biggest smile on his face, and he says, "Dad, that's the oldest trick in the book." And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Telling my teachers we've got a doctor's appointment, you're taking me hunting." And I'm like, "Well, hold on a second, buddy. We've got to take care of some business first." But it's been great. Spent a lot of time chasing woodies, and we got a few limits, and of course the squirrel don't stand a chance. We've got Boone, who's really just coming into his own, and he's been treeing a bunch of squirrels. Now, if only I could shoot straight, we'd have a lot more on the tailgate. But it's been a great season so far, and the rut's starting to pick up. In fact, Boone will also blood trail, and got a call a week and a half ago from a good friend out in Dresden. He said, "Hey, my 13-year-old son has just completed his first solo hunt. It was his first time going out with his own compound bow. He had put on all the work, planted the food plot, put out feed for the deer, and then had taken a shot on just a beautiful 10-point. And he made the shot and didn't want to bump it out. And so they called me and asked me to bring Boone over there. Well, Boone found that deer in less than 5 minutes. And, of course, it was just pure celebration. Really cool opportunity to see Travis and Gage, those two celebrate Gage getting that big buck. And one thing we noticed is that deer's neck, it was swelled up, and so he was getting right into that rut, and I think it's about to be on. So I put up a new set yesterday, and I'm gonna leave here, go take care of my scent that I've picked up from coming in here, and head on out to the woods.
I love it. It's the season. That's why we got you here. So yeah, Boone is definitely out there crushing some of those squirrels, which we absolutely despise right now this time of year when there's nothing but leaves. So. One almost got me the other day. Sometimes you can be like, and they're like, okay, that's not a deer. But then one was like, I was like, oh, okay, what we got going on here? And sure as hell, it was a nice big old gray squirrel.
The chipmunks got Aiden and I more than once the other day when we were out. It's like about the same thing. They were fighting, running around with each other. I was like, what was that?
Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible how a 200-pound deer can move through the woods silently. And yet a squirrel will sound like a 500-pound man in flip-flops carrying 6 bags through Walmart. And you wonder what in the world's going on. But we're doing our best to put a dent in the squirrel population, that's for sure.
For sure. But there's no deer in Dresden or Muskingum County, so don't even think about it.
Nope, not a single one. Stay away.
Whatever ODNR said about Coshocton and Muskingum County, it's a lie.
It's fake news.
It's a lie. Fake news. So, but we got you here. You're the tree stand guy. You're the hang on. You're what I would call the more typical hunter that we have. A lot of people aren't in saddles, and I understand that. So I think how you approach an all-day sit in a saddle, it can be completely different than what it is when you have a little bit more creature comfort in a hang on tree stand. You have a bigger platform, nice soft seat. go ahead and let's get into some of your top tips. I'm looking for 5. Give me some 5 top tips, hot takes from Dan Wells on how to make an all-day rut sit more enjoyable.
That's right. Well, first part of that, making the all-day sit, I don't know about enjoyable, but at least how to survive an all-day sit and a hang-on. You know, I started hunting out of a hang-on, out of necessity, right? And so I started hunting, and that was, at the time, the most affordable option, and learning to hunt really on my own, kind of teaching myself, through a lot of reading, watching different videos and whatnot. That seemed like the easiest learning curve. And so I had found a hang-on, some hand-me-down climbing sticks that felt like 100 pounds.
Oh, I bet.
And then just went from there. And what that allowed me to do is not only, hunt and be relatively mobile, not as mobile as you'd be able to be hunting out of a saddle, at least at the time. I mean, now I'm using, ultralight hang-ons and sticks, and I can be just as mobile as anybody else. It just takes me a little bit longer to set up on a tree. However, one of those tips then is for an all-day sit is I want to be as productive as I can be while taking like a complete day away from work and away from family to be in the woods. And so when I started hunting, I was in the middle of completing my PhD. And so half of my dissertation, no kidding, was written sitting on a hang-on tree stand.
I love it.
And so I had purchased a cover for my laptop, covered it in like camouflage duct tape, and even rigged up a swivel stand to where I could set my laptop on and move it away if I needed to prepare to take a shot, or just kind of rearrange myself in
these tree stand guys, I tell you.
In the stand, right? And so you talk about creature comforts, and so like today, when I go out later today, it's not going to be an all-day sit, but in the tree that I'm going to hunt this evening, I have that same setup rigged up, and I'll have my laptop there. Now, granted, I've got to make sure that my typing is silent and that I'm not moving, and the screen brightness is turned way down. So that would be my first hot take, if you will, is if you're taking the day away from work, go on in and try to get some work done in the tree stand. And recognizing that your productivity level may not be optimal, right? That you might not be able to get a whole lot done, but you might be able to get something done in those times when the deer might not be moving. But usually when you don't expect them to be moving, that's when they show up.
Oh, for sure. And make sure you're up to date on your Apple Care. So when that big booner does come walking out you drop your laptop 25 feet, you're good to go.
That's right. Thankfully that hasn't happened to me yet. So I would think that's my first thing, especially as someone who seems to be constantly needing to work, whether it's completing a dissertation for my PhD or making the revisions on like a book manuscript. That time's super valuable. And in fact, sitting in a tree stand out in nature, in creation, some of my best work has been done during an all-day sit during the rut, because the clarity of mind is there. And I've killed some of my best deer while my laptop was in front of me, right? And of course, awesome. You see a big buck come out when your laptop is in front of you, and you have a moment of panic, right? Because you're wondering, how am I going to move this out of the way without spooking this deer? But that's one of the magical things about the rut is those deer tend to have one thing on their mind, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that'd be the first thing. I think the second thing, if you're going to do an all-day sit, for me, what is of the utmost importance is bringing something to read in order to pass that time.
Yep.
So for me, what I don't want to do is I don't want to completely waste my day away, playing on my phone or scrolling social media. Because for me personally, I think there's a correlation between the number of hours I spend scrolling social media and then like my level of mental health. And so what should be a refreshing and energizing experience, kind of disconnecting in the woods, if you're spending your entire day out in the woods instead of connecting to creation and grounding yourself in that moment and paying attention to like the nuances of the forest, it can turn into something that like drives you into a really unhealthy space by being on social media or playing, I don't know, like the Oregon Trail on your phone for hours on end.
Well, that's critical. I mean, because if we do it. I mean, I do it. We just talked to Andrew and Billy about extra power and playing games or whatever. You don't have the screen, and so you're not looking at other people's deer that they've harvested. I see that Dan's killed a 150-inch deer, and I got nothing but a little forky. And that can weigh on you with the pressure, the unnecessary pressure that comes with just social media. And we had talked. The Devotions from the Tree Stand. Was it Chapman?
Yep, Chapman. Yep.
It's
a great book.
My wife picked up that book, and it's related to hunting, and so it's always in my bag. And you can pull it out, read a quick 4 or 5 page little story, set it down, focus, maybe pick it back up later, maybe use your phone a little bit. But yeah, I think having a book is something that is silent, and you're not just brainwashing yourself while you're out there.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, yeah, and that comparison game is so dangerous too, right? And it's something as hunters in the age of social media is really dangerous, right? Mm-hmm. Because we compare ourselves to others, and we don't know the full context of their hunt and their experience. Yep. And so instead of playing that comparison game, just focus on being present in the moment, and whatever that day might present to you, breathe that in and be thankful for the opportunity that we get to do what we get to do, right?
Yep.
And so, it's interesting because they say, hey, put the screen away, but meanwhile I'm typing away on, a chapter in a book manuscript. And so it's really just kind of focusing, if you're going to have that screen in front of you, it's being intentional about its use, right? And is that going to benefit the overall quality of your experience? And just from a logistical or hunting tactics perspective, is I will rarely ever take a paper book with me in the stand, because it is just, especially if you've got a little bit of a wind, then it can really screw you up. And so I've got one of those paper white Kindles.
Oh yeah.
And I'll take that out there with me.
Great idea.
That's super easy to just slip in my pants pocket if I need to make a move. And finding some good reading for an all-day sit, I think, is critical for passing the time and then just making it an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, last year my go-to, I reread The Hatchet, which obviously is a classic, especially for guys like us who are in the outdoors and the survival, and so that was a small, easy read. The devotion. Obviously, as guys of faith, that was something that's really nice for me too, because I can connect exactly what that story is in the book that I'm reading with my experience right now. And a lot of them are about kids and stuff like that, so that makes it extra sentimental for me too. But that's a super great tip.
Yeah. So find something to read. Be productive if you're able to, or if you're of the mindset. Because I think one thing that's kind of a hindrance to folks getting out and committing to an all-day sit is being able to take the entire day away from work. And so if you can get just a little bit done while you're out there, I think in our commitment to the hustle and to the grind, I think you can make yourself feel a little bit better about taking a complete day away. The third thing for me is you're just taking care of your body when you're in that stand. Now, I've never hunted out of a saddle. I mean, it's something I'd be interested in doing, but I know hunting out of a hang-on stand is, when you're in one position for hours on end, I mean, your body can really punish you for that. And so, I make it a point to, throughout the day, as slow and as deliberate as I can to position my body in different ways, whether that is positioning my backside on the seat in a different way, or even flipping that seat up and standing for a while.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, I've got a number of different stretches that I'll do throughout the day in order to just stay loose and stay comfortable. And again, it's all about kind of contributing to the overall experience of your hunt. And then
sure.
you're not going to regret it for, the next week as your body is sore and stiff and you can hardly move because you spent an entire day in a tree stand.
Yeah, we're not getting any younger for sure. So taking that time, I think, like you said, to really deliberately and methodically stretch. We know whether it's with the saddle, it's a little bit easier because I can kind of stretch that out, or I can get into a seated position. Well, I guess with a tree stand too, you can probably just stand up. But it takes a lot on you, especially on that lumbar in the tree stand where you don't have the back support or anything like that. Just to get up, stretch, kind of shake it off, and if the time comes and you're loose, you're not stiff there. You're not stiff and cold and trying to pull your bow back. It might help.
Yeah, and thinking about an all-day sit, what you don't want is, the next day to wake up and regret taking the time to get out there. Especially if you didn't, take an animal while you're out there.
Yep.
We have a tendency to base our definition of a successful hunt based on whether or not we bring meat home. You have to take into account, okay, you want your body to feel at least halfway decent the next day.
Yeah.
Especially if you didn't bring home meat. I could be sore as can be, but if I, just killed a 150 plus buck, I don't care how sore I'm going to be.
Yeah, no.
I'm happy. So maximize the potential for, your reflection on that hunt being one that's positive. And if it's not positive, then learn from that, right?
Yeah.
What was it that made it uncomfortable, or what was it that you would improve on, or is less than ideal to where you didn't enjoy it, And sometimes I think those difficult hunts where you are uncomfortable, or you get cold or wet, I think looking back on those, if you approach it with the right mindset of, okay, what can I learn today? Those hunts that involve the most amount of suffering are the ones that are more memorable, right?
Yep.
Because I've killed deer that are nothing to brag about, but they were some of the most difficult hunts, and those are more memorable than the times when I've killed deer that are above 150 inches.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that too, because that's something that we've tried to do this year a lot too. Is okay, this spot wasn't successful. What do I need to change? What did I learn from this? Not, well, I got to go and I got to deal with my wife and kids and I got to try this all again the next morning and blah, blah. It's like, okay, what was successful? What wasn't? What did I like about this spot? What didn't I? Where do I change for tomorrow? That having that mindset of being, more times than not, you're coming out of the woods not heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And so you got to keep that in mind. Like 100 times you go in, there's only one time that you're coming out heavy. So you just got to keep in mind, it might not happen today, but what can I do for the next day?
That's right. So I think, what hot take are we on? We're on number 4, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the number 4, I think, is twofold, because it involves a lot of risk and reward, and that is, I'm a big fan of having good drinks with me.
Yeah.
Now the flip side of that is, well, what do you got to do to get rid of those drinks after they've been processed through your body, right? That's one way of putting it. And so anytime I go out for an all-day sit, I'm making just the biggest thermos of coffee that I can, right? Because I will sip on that coffee throughout the day. I enjoy it. For me, there are a few things better than drinking hot coffee on a cold morning as the sun comes up, or pouring that final little bit that's in your thermos as the sun goes down and you prepare for that golden hour, right? When you're waiting for that deer to come in. Yet in the meantime, let's have a frank conversation here. What do you got to do when you got to take a leak, right?
Yeah, or the latter.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Well, especially if you're drinking coffee all day, right? And if it has the same effect on me that it, maybe it does others. And so, that's one thing that I try to I take I take a big, it's not a jug, but I take a big container with me, and I'll relieve myself into that jug because I'm so paranoid about whatever scent I'm putting off. Yet meanwhile, I'm drinking coffee, and that
Yeah.
scent's in the air, but for some reason I won't just go off the edge of the tree stand. But I mean, I have buddies of mine who they just let it rip right off the edge
Yeah.
of the tree stand, and they said, hey, I've seen big bucks come in and sniff the spot that
Yeah.
that I defouled, and
Defoul.
right, I've even heard it referred to as the Buckman juice.
Yep.
Right, you
Yep.
put out the juice, and they'll come on in to take a look. But I'm more concerned about am I gonna have something in the tree stand with me, my coffee, my water, to just keep me hydrated, because again, I think for me it's all about taking care of my body.
Yep.
And so if I'm not hydrated with some good water, and then having that enjoyable moment of a cup of coffee, it makes an all day sit a lot more difficult. And then if it's coming out the other way in a solid form, there, Ben. Listen, buddy, I don't even want to think about that, man.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about that, because that just adds a whole nother layer, and I've got about 100 different stories about that I don't think we want to share on this podcast.
Who was it that we were talking to? Billy Taylor
was talking about Eberhart.
Yeah. Just right out the back, man.
Yeah.
That's what the benefit of the saddle. Hike that thing up a little bit and just give her a lean.
Yeah.
Now if Jackie were here, I think she brings obviously an entirely different perspective,
I
in
bet.
that female perspective of an all-day sit. And Jackie has logged far more all-day sits than I have. And so, as a female, her system of taking care of when nature calls is entirely different, but just because of the logistics there. And so she'll actually, and she's going to be so happy to hear this and me talking about her.
Sorry, Jackie.
That's right. Sorry, Jack. But she'll slowly climb down out of the tree stand and find a spot off in the woods that's gonna that's usually off of a deer trail, and that will disturb them the least amount possible.
It's funny how people have different approaches on urine too, because it's like some ammonia is ammonia, you know what I mean? Like that urine smell is a urine smell, but to others it's like take pissing in a scrape as an example.
Yeah, some say it's like an hour and
Yep.
it dissipates. The humans part of it just turns to ammonia after an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah, and then some
we
people are
did.
like, well, it's because you're pissing in a scrape, that's why they're not hitting it. And it's like, well, people have different opinions on that too.
Right.
So it really, but in this time of year, I think everything goes.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
which meanwhile,
Go downwind.
this human piss scrape. Put that on a T-shirt. Human piss scrape. This human piss scrape smells like Starbucks, right? That's just trouble.
That's awesome. Let's keep it on the food and the creature comforts, because we've had guys on here that are eating Starburst and
Captain
cereal
Crunch
bars.
cereal bars, and
You guys aren't pulling much Captain Crunch cereal bars in the Wells household.
No.
So what's the snack regiment looking like?
So the first thing before I talk about like the specifics of like what snacks we're bringing out, the thing that I'm most concerned about, like regardless of what food I decide to take out for the day, is how I'm going to carry it out there, and then what is that going to sound like when I'm pulling it out of a bag? Because listen, I remember the first time I took my youngest son, Lincoln, out to hunt, and I'll have to send you guys this video because it is absolute gold. But the first time I took him out to hunt, I didn't expect to see anything, but I really didn't conduct any oversight on what snacks he was going to choose.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, hey, buddy, go into the pantry, and I think you've got a little bit of leftover Halloween candy. Take that out, and then take all the wrappers off of it. And then I've got like a little like a slider like rubberized bag.
Oh yeah,
And so it's completely silent, so
Yep.
you don't have the sound of those
silicone.
Yeah,
bag.
it's silicone. Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. And so it's like a silicone bag. And so he brings it back in, and it's just loaded. And I'm like, all right, that's part of getting kids into the woods is, saying, hey, buddy, there's snacks. And so he came out there with me, and he's like, Dad, can I have the snack bag? And I'm like, yeah, buddy. And so I give him the snack bag, and he unzips it. And I did not check what he brought. Well, out comes this stick that is encrusted with bright blue rock candy. And so he is just chomping
I think I know he's talking about.
chomping on this rock candy, and it is just as loud as can be. I'll have to send that video to you guys. And so, obviously Jackie and I's approach to an all-day sit is radically different to when we're loading up candy for the kids to come and munch on in the tree stand. What Jackie and I normally take is, we're still putting it in that same bag, but neither of us really eat a whole lot while we're out there. And I think that's largely because we don't want to have to deal with what putting that food in our system might might do to our stomach while we're up in that stand. But for the both of us, a Cliff Bar is usually a go-to. I'm also just a big fan of bringing our summer sausage or the jerky that we make out into the stand. And there's just something about eating on like the cousin of the deer that you're about to shoot while you're in the stand. Also, I'm a big fan. Jackie will make like her own granola blend, and we'll bring that out there. And so we try to keep it as minimal as possible, but recognizing that, hey, we've got to have some sort of calorie intake if we don't want to if we want to avoid those headaches and just kind of the general fatigue that comes from not eating or drinking anything while you're in the stand.
I love it. It's like the polar opposite of what we just talked about with Billy and Hunter. And of course he hasn't heard it, but we had Hunter's, the story more than I do. It was Hunter Rudd.
Yep. He's a photographer, videographer for a company that we follow, and we've talked to him before.
Oh, okay.
So they're out hunting with one of the guys that we had on the podcast, Taylor, and he's the snack king. Like, it's like a meme now. Everybody knows him as the snack guy. He's had like spaghetti and like
I'm going about this all wrong then.
Built his own chili dogs last weekend, like
chili dogs.
And then he had a taco in a bag, like brought a whole taco
in the stand. Oh my gosh.
So then the one we were talking about was he had this Pyrex glass cookie tray with a rubber lid on it, and it was like full of brownies or cookies or something.
I'm going about this all wrong.
Right.
Pulled that out of his bag, and he had a knife and everything, cut it, handed it to the guy that was hunting.
And I bring this up because Jackie knows how to get her way around the bakery, if you will, and make some sweet cakes.
Oh, yeah.
So, Jackie, a 9x13. Give me an 8x8 at least.
I'll put in the word.
Throw in his bag, a little Pyrex glass dish, and
I will say that Jackie runs a cake business there in Dresden, and one of the things that she makes often are these little you know what, I do bring these often. You're on to me now.
We're getting it out.
Getting it out of me. She makes these she calls cake balls, which they're buttercream and cake rolled into a ball, dipped in chocolate, and then usually we put them in the freezer.
Yes, sir.
And I will grab a handful of those, and buddy, those are the ticket in a tree stand.
Well, and like Billy and like Andrew was saying too, before you came on, is having that little bit of a sweet, for me especially. I mean, I'm not a light guy, but having that little bit of sweet, it just kind of gives you that extra little. I can look forward to that buttercream cake ball. I can look forward to that Kit Kat.
It's that sugar rush, right?
Yeah. It's morale booster.
Yeah. My go-to snack too.
This morale booster. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Well, my go-to. I do the Old Wisconsin. This is certainly not an ad for them, but I like them. The Old Wisconsin turkey sausage links. They're like snack sticks. They're the same size as a mozzarella stick or like a cheese stick. So it's perfect. It's just you get a little bit of cheese, a little bit of meat.
Got it.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's awesome. We're on number 5.
Number 5. I think the number 5. So we've gone through. Hey, find an opportunity to be productive if that's what you wish.
Sure.
For me, I'm always packing. Coffee, water. Of course, make sure you're snacked up and ready to go. And then I think my fifth tip for an all-day sit is, I think really. This isn't a gear tip or some sort of hard tip of what you're packing in your pack out there. But I really think, and this might be the most important one, is you have to, above all things, no matter what you bring with the stand to you or what you do, what type of place you're hunting or what game you're pursuing from the stand. Of course, in this case, we're talking about the whitetail rut. You have to go into an all-day sit mentally prepared, right? Or otherwise it will be a miserable sit, or it won't turn into an all-day sit. I mean, because I've gone into the stand before not in the proper frame of mind, committed to the rigors of an all-day sit, because it is rigorous, right? It is not easy to maintain that position in the tree from sunup or from sunup to sundown. And so I've gone out into the woods many times without the proper frame of mind, and what I thought was going to be an all-day sit, I was gone by 11 in the morning.
Sure.
And so I think that is the most important thing for an all-day sit, is just mentally preparing yourself for those moments where you're in the tree and you haven't seen anything and you want to just pack it in and go home. Because listen, it is my favorite moment of the day, outside of that sunrise and sunset moment. It's my favorite moment after an all-day sit to go back to the truck, where in the back of the truck, I've got a cooler full of food and cold snacks. Yeah. And, and I will crack a few of those open, spend some time on the tailgate, and I look forward to that moment after every single hunt. Yeah. But I have to approach it, the time in the stand, with that mind of commitment, dedication, and recognizing that there's going to be plenty of moments in the day where I want to climb down and go home. But to quote that old adage, you can't kill them from the couch.
Yeah.
And so you got to be out there.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I try to use that mentality. You can't kill them from the couch, but at the same time, I said you can also blow a hunt by not being on the couch. But this time of year, you just got to put the time in the stand. It's just what
That's
it
right.
is.
That's right.
So he hit it from the man himself, Dan Wells. We found out he does, in fact, like to have some sweets. Jackie, I'm not too far. I'll send Dan with my address, and we can drop some cake bombs over to my house.
That's right. She'll take care of you.
Well, sir, thanks for coming in. I know you made like a half-hour drive for a 20-minute conversation, but it's always better to have you here.
It's good seeing you guys.
Yeah, you got to see since the last time we were here, you were in just a conference room before we started incorporating video. You got to see our sweet setup. So we finally, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can finally see the buck that we have on the wall here in its full glory, instead of just sitting there being partial. So thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on, and make sure you keep me updated on your rut activity, and can't wait to see what you guys get into. And if you bloody a deer, take a bad shot, give me a call, and I'll have old Boone out there, and he'll find that deer for you.
There you go. All right, everyone. We hope you enjoyed those conversations with Andrew, Billy, and Dan. They were super enlightening. It was cool to see how some of those guys had the same tips, but then some were polar opposites, especially when it came to snack wrappers.
Yep.
So, as always, we appreciate you guys listening. Good luck this season. Again, the rut is a grind. You just got to stay after it, and best of luck. And if you do get something down, be sure to share it with us on all of our social media platforms. You find out all that information in the show notes. Again, thank you for listening. We appreciate all of you listeners. And until next time, enjoy the pursuit.